Michael Vasey with another episode of The Magical World of G. Michael Vasey. And tonight I'm talking to Timna, a young lady who lives in the Vienna area of Austria. English is not her first language, although she speaks excellent English. I think it's only fair to let you know. But we had a really fun and varied conversation because she is an ordained Voodoo Queen. She also comes from a family where she was taught the basics of European folk magic and shamanism and many other forms of magic as well. So I hope you enjoy the conversation that we had. Of course, I started by asking Timna how she got started. How did you get interested in magic, voodoo, and all of that kind of stuff in the first place?
I had two emergencies at the time. In 2017, I had problems. I had left my ex-boyfriend, and we had problems with domestic violence. And he was stalking me, and he was threatening me. And the next boyfriend I had after him was a magician. I didn't know this, but this guy cursed me. He was a black magician. He cursed me. I didn't know this. So everything was just, it was just out of control. And the first ex-boyfriend was stalking me. He was threatening me. And I just thought that everything was over. My life was over. There was no use in it. And I didn't know what to do. So I thought, okay, probably I will summon a demon. And I thought
it's a bit drastic, isn't it?
I thought this was the only way to get out of this all. My grandma is a witch, but she does only white magic. So
right.
Yeah, she works with the saints and with the angels, and she tried to help me, but she couldn't. So I thought, okay, probably I will summon a demon. So I entered an internet forum. It's called Dämonenforum D, where people just talk about summoning demons, and I ask, okay, how do I summon a demon? Just like that.
Okay.
And I got a private message from a chaos magician, a former chaos magician. He's now Discordian. And he said, okay, don't summon a demon. I've got another idea. I will help you out.
I was going to say, a much better idea, probably, yes.
Yes, and he started helping me out with chaos magic. He started telling me how to do chaos magic, and he had running a circle. And in this circle, there was a bokor. And he said, yeah, why don't you start with voodoo? And I called Baba Legba. And then after some past life regressions, it turns out that from my past 6 lives, I have been with Baba Legba and Baron Samedi for all except of one. But in this one life, I died when I was very little. So every time I made it to adulthood, I was with Baba Legba and Baron Samedi, and this is where it took me again.
So explain this, because I was reading your website a little earlier. And I'm not at all familiar with voodoo, other than bad Hollywood movies and Dennis Wheatley occult novels. So tell me a bit about voodoo and what that's all about, and what this means that you're with these spirits or whatever in past lives.
Voodoo is quite complicated because it is not centralized. All African spirituality is complicated because the African people have their spirits. It's spirits of nature or spirits of people who have passed away. And we do have only one god. And this god is, in Voodoo, he is Papa Bondye, and in Yoruba, it's Olodumare. And this one god, he lifts up spirits. He just gives them his own power and he lifts them up. So in Voodoo, they become Loa. And in the Yoruba traditions, they become Orisha. And every village got their own Loa, their own Orisha. Every house got their own Loa and their own Orisha. But this gives them a lot of time for every single person. And we do, first of all, there is Papa Bondye. Papa Bondye is our god. He made the world with the help of the first Loa. He is Dambala. He is a serpent. And he birthed the earth from an egg. And the other Loa are just, like I said, nature spirits, spirits of people who passed away. And you do need a babalekba or eshu or a lekba to open the gates between our world and the other world and to bring you the other spirits. And then you can marry spirits, you can be adopted by spirits, stuff like that.
You can marry a spirit.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. That's I've written some books on yeah, that kind of thing, but I didn't realize that you literally could do that. Interesting. So
You do pacts with demons, but with Loa you do marry.
marry, okay.
It's basically the same as a pact.
Got it. Once you got exposed to this, how have you been able to utilize these magical techniques and spirits? What have you been able to do with it?
I had a lot of help of chaos magicians telling me how to do all this stuff, how to use sigils, how to do sentient magic, like feeling things and then manipulating energies and all this kind of stuff. Of course, also read a lot of books, a lot of grimoire. Is this in English? Is this grimoires?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Your English is
Yeah.
great, by the way. No problem at all.
Thank you.
And so, but you started a website and a little, you got a little venture going there. What's that all about, and how does that fit?
Yeah, I'm doing this since 2017 and I did a lot of stuff. I'm in a magic circle. I did a lot of combat magic naturally. Things just happen. And I learned a lot. And then I thought, yeah, I can somehow probably help other people with it. I'm also interested in shamanism. I'm looking forward when all this COVID stuff is over to do to take some courses in shamanism, because this is what Papa Legba likes a lot. And until now, I just read books about shamanism and had those chaos magicians help me out with it. And basically, most things I learned from them.
And have you had success with sigils?
Not really. I do use them to make dolls haunted. I have a sigil that makes dolls haunted. But most of the time I do candle magic. I do a lot use conjuring, where you take herbs, you do candle magic, you do knot magic, you do little charms with like bones from animals. I often do cook. I cook bones and just take the bones from my food and don't take them. I do not sacrifice. I will cook like spare ribs or something and take the spare ribs.
And you do tarot readings, right?
Yeah, the tarot readings.
Where did you learn the tarot?
Because I love cards. I think them are so beautiful and I'm collecting them.
Okay, right, good.
And in Voodoo, we do divination a lot, most of the time with cowrie shells. But the Loa can also use the tarot. So I said, okay, I like the tarot. Please help me out with this. And my spirits answer me through the tarot.
And have you, like I said, have you had success with this? Have you, is the business growing, or are you just starting?
I opened it up 3 weeks ago.
So I'm right there, spot on, good stuff. I'm interested in shamanism too. I'm interested in the Slavic varieties.
Veles is great. I know Veles. Veles is great. Mine is with Veles.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, so I did some. Well, I'll tell you a quick story. About 2 or 3 years ago, I was walking my daughter's dog, and I just lived beneath the castle in Brno, and there's a lot of these areas where you can sit and look at the city and so forth. And it was probably this time of year. It was dark, and as I walk around the corner, I come across a rucksack just sitting there, and I thought, oh, somebody must have left the rucksack. So I'm headed to the rucksack to look at it, and then I see what looks like a skeleton laid out on the ground, and I'm thinking, well, gee, what the hell is this? And on closer inspection, it was bits of wood and some bones, yeah, but it wasn't really a skeleton, but it looked like a skeleton, stones and things like that. And I'm thinking, God, what have I stumbled in on here, And so I was intrigued, and I start looking around, but there was nobody there, just this rucksack and this arrangement on the floor. So after a while, I thought, okay, well, I'll just leave it be because I don't know what I've stumbled on and I don't want to disturb it because I don't understand what I've encountered here. And I start walking with the dog, and this guy's running towards me. I mean, he's running towards me in a way that I thought was going to hit me. So I get my keys out of my pocket, put the key just in case I, had to defend myself. And he ran right past me, almost like he didn't see me. And he's singing, chanting. So I think, okay, this is getting really weird. So I took the dog up some steps and onto the road above so I could look down on him. And he's doing a little chant. He's got a little drum and he's dancing around. And then he looks at me and I look at him, and I freaked out because I'm thinking, I shouldn't be doing this. If I was doing something magical, I wouldn't want someone watching me. So I went home, and I thought that would be the end of it. The next day, I went to look. The skeleton thing had gone, the rucksack had gone, but there was a burned patch. There was like the ends of flowers, which looked like they'd come from a cemetery, like roses and things, but burned, just the stalks and some petals. There was a stone arrangement, and there was even a place where he'd hammered a marker and placed a pebble to mark. I kept going back and looking, and every day something had changed. There was little bits of cigar roll-ups and things placed there. The stones were rearranged, moved around a bit. Then I started to see his activity all around the neighborhood. Little plates left out with a quartz pebble and a little bit of tobacco left on top. And I thought to myself, this is really interesting, and that's what got me interested in Slavic shamanism. So I started doing some research, and I got interested in the Slavic deities and stuff like that. But what has happened subsequently is that I began to think, and I know this probably sounds a bit crazy, but I began to think that we were playing a bit of a game, because he knew I knew, he knew I was watching. I would take a pebble and put it in his arrangement, and he would move it. I would move it back. I would go and try to see him, and there'd be nobody. Move a pebble, go back 10 minutes later, the pebble had been moved, nobody there. So we continued to play this game, and then eventually he kind of finished what he was doing, and I thought it was all over, except that where he moved these stones behind this metal fence, and on the metal fence was painted in silver nail varnish or something, an expression in Czech, which I got which was on perfectly aligned with this pebble, right? And perfectly aligned with what he'd been doing. And I looked, and there was no more graffiti on the fence. And this wasn't written like graffiti, it was very neat. And it said something along the lines of, in English, it says, "I can hear the sound of the blood flowing through your body." And I thought this was, I really started to think this was a message for me. And everything I've done the last 2 years has been as a result of this guy, whatever he's up to. So I've done all kinds of weird stuff, like invoking, I went through the moon cycles, invoking Marana during winter and Vesna in the spring moons. And then I did Veles and Perun, the pair, and lots of weird and wonderful experiences. Now I'm dowsing energy lines all over the place. And a couple of weeks ago, I'm dowsing energy lines, and I came to this place following one line, and I see these 3 stone pillars, just modern stone pillars, but they were dressed as people with clothing and orange peel for hair. And I went, aha, it's the shaman again. So I took a few photographs, made a video, went off following another energy line, found another energy line that I never found before, followed it back, and ended up in the same place. I'm like, you're playing tricks with me. So, this is what it's got me interested in shamanism. This game I'm playing with this guy. I'm convinced he's doing something. I think he started doing something he was doing, but he somehow got me involved in it, and I've become. It's sent me off in a completely different direction, which is really interesting. Have you ever seen like shamans using stone arrangements in patterns?
No, here there are no other of course there are other magicians, but they do not do anything outside.
Yeah, this is quite strange. This guy absolutely does stuff all the time outside. Yeah, so
I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do live offerings at the crossroads here. or stuff like that. It would just embarrass me to leave that there.
So, what kind of people can you help? What kind of people are you interested in working with, helping through the website?
It depends. I'm with Papa Legba. Papa Legba can see the past, the present, and the future. So, but he does not like say that somebody has a destiny. He just says, okay, you've got like 3 or 5 possible paths to go, and I can help you figuring out what you want and what the best decision is in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
So he does that a lot, and he does not say, okay, go on, do this, do that. He's just asking questions. What do you want? And then he's looking for opportunities, and he's seeing how that all works out. And he is trying to help the people to just find the right path for them. And he sees whether it is possible or not.
And how do you interact? Do you hear a voice, or it speaks through? How does it work for you?
Of course, I hear them. I hear them talking, and I see them in my dreams, but this is not that common. I see them probably 3 or 4 times a month.
So you actually hear a physical voice in your head talking to you. Yeah. It's interesting because I was talking to a guy in the UK, Tim Walter, who's a house healer, and he has a spirit guide, and he says that he hears voice talking to him and is guided by this voice. But for me, I have a spirit guide too, but I don't hear a voice. I get like a seed idea arrives in my head, and then it just goes and opens up as a full picture, no words. And then I have to try to put words to describe what happened, and it's almost impossible usually to describe this sort of meditational experience, because it's beyond words. But it's interesting that some people hear a voice, and some people are like me. They just get a seed idea that kind of opens up and becomes something that you have to put words to. And do you have to call on him, or is he always there for you?
They come and go as they please. I can call them on the altar, but usually it depends. I got 3 spirits that are here on a daily basis, and Santa Marta la Dominadora comes mostly in the evening when I'm giving them the sacrifices. I've got 4 altars. I'm changing the sacrifices every day. The 4th altar is for Marie Laveau. She was the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans, and she lived until, I think, 1890 something. She died in 1890 something. I don't have the exact number now in my head, and she's helping me out with doing gree and mojo bags and all this stuff. She's putting her magic into this, but I only work with her. She's not here on a daily basis. So Santa Marta la Dominadora will usually come in the evening. Papa Legba will not be here so often throughout the day, probably once or twice. Sometimes he's not here for days. And Baron Samedi comes constantly. Like, I'm driving the car, he's just like, okay, she's bored, she's got time, I'll come around and talk to her. So most likely he will come in the morning first time before I even have my coffee.
And what's the conversation like? Is it a sort of teaching conversation, or is it just normal conversation?
It belongs. First of all, he helps me out with everything. When I'm getting angry, he's just, chatting with me, gossiping about the people around me. He's doing a lot of jokes. He's really funny. He's always complimenting me because he's a gentleman and he's a charmer, and I like this. He will just comment on anything, random things that happen, and of course he does help out a lot the other people. What he does a lot is, if somebody needs guidance, he will look at those people and see which god they belong to. And it does not mean that we take them. It's not like Papa Legba is not collecting souls. He's not taking anyone like you see it on the TV or something. But the Baron will look it up and say, okay, I think I know which god is best for you. And this is very often not us.
Yeah, I read that on your site that you say that sometimes you can have, you say owned, but I assume you mean an affiliation with another god or spirit.
I said it in German, that is in English, I will put it in another way. It's not like owned, it's just like guided by.
Yeah, guided by, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind you doing that for me, actually,
Yeah,
at some
we
point.
can
Not
do
not
that.
right now, because I know you can't just do things. Yeah, that would be interesting. That would be very interesting. Where do you want to go with all of this? Because obviously you've put up the website and you're ready to do some of this divination and work, etc. Where do you want to go with it?
Yeah, as I said, when all these COVID things is over, I want to do shaman courses, and I will just see where it takes me. I'm really interested into spiritual healing, but not like healing the body. A lot of people got mental health issues, and I'm not allowed to treat them. I'm not but allowed to treat them. It takes you've got to take classes and you have to have certificates and stuff like that. But a lot of people nowadays just not satisfied. They get depressed and things like that. And this is what you can help people a lot to overcome with spirituality.
I mean, another question that sort of pops into my mind is what do your friends and family think of this?
My mom thinks it's cool, but she doesn't dare to do it herself because she says, okay, she would just curse everybody and that would be bad for her karma. And my grandma, as I said, is a witch herself. And I'm from a line of witches, but I know of one who worked with the Roman gods and the Egyptian gods. She's already dead. She died a few years ago. My grandma is working with the saints and with the angels.
Interesting. Yeah, because I remember when I was growing up a long, long time ago now, and we used to have religious education classes, and the teacher said one day, is anybody interested in talking about their spiritual interests? And I, well, yeah, I will. And I got up in front of the class the following week, and I talked about, astral projection and spirits and ghosts and all this magic. And I thought everybody was like really interested, because they're all sat there. And then they wouldn't let me forget it. I mean, they just thought I was a complete lunatic. I learned my lesson. It didn't stop me from
Yes.
being interested, but it did tell me something about human nature.
Often enough, it's better to not talk about it and to
Yes.
not tell people what you do.
Yeah.
It was quite a hard step. I'm doing Twitch as well. I'm giving out free readings on Twitch every once in a while. And it was kind of a hard step to show my face on the internet
Yeah.
and to say, okay, I'm doing what I do. And yes, I can hear voices and stuff. And this is just, okay, so hard.
Yeah, no, I think now it's much more acceptable, mostly more acceptable, and because of the internet and because of self-publishing and all the other things, it's much more accessible. And I think a lot of people are interested in all aspects of spirituality. Voodoo, as I said, is not one that I've really ever come across. Chaos magic, of course. Um, Austin, whatever his name was, Spur, the English artist. I'm familiar with him, and I've tried a little bit of his sigil magic stuff. For me, it doesn't seem to work that well. I don't know why. I seem to be more passive in the sense that I find times in my life when the synchronicities come thick and fast, and then I seem to be in a sort of magical vein. I'm where I should be, and all kinds of things happen for me. And then other times I get dragged out of this, work, relationships, family. They pull you away, and you suddenly wake up one day and think, well, hell, I stopped meditating. I haven't did a meditation in weeks, and the synchronicities have stopped as well. And so I think practicing magic is also a constant battle of staying focused and in the magic, as I call it. Do you have a problem with that or not?
No, I do change the sacrifices on my altars every day. So at least once a day, I do talk with
Wow.
my spirits. They get a fresh coffee, they get water. Sometimes I give them sweet, sometimes I cook for them. This is important to give them every day.
Yeah, well, you're dedicated. I don't know. I tend to, as I say, I get dragged out of it somehow sometimes by just everyday life, and it's happened all my life. It happens periodically, and I'll go for years. In the past, I've gone for years, and then one day something's happened. I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. I was interested in that. I should go back to it. I think these days I'm more focused because I'm doing a lot of writing and blogging and all that kind of stuff. So I do stay focused, but I don't have the discipline I'd like to have. I certainly don't have the discipline you do.
This is not about discipline. It's just that my spirits are here for me every day. So I got them around constantly. I can't forget them. They remind me of themselves. So
Interesting.
Santa Marta will show up and I'm like, okay, I've got to cook you your coffee and I've got to bring you your water because she's already here. So I can't forget it.
I'd kind of like to do a course on sorcery myself. There's an American guy that I follow that's supposed to be pretty good, and he runs courses. And I keep telling myself I'll do it, but I never get around to it because I'm so busy doing my own thing, which is this mapping of energy lines and working with earth energies. And I think that this is important work, and it's obviously where the shaman was directing me anyway. So I feel like I'm doing what I need to be doing, and anything else can wait for another time. Growing up, when did you first become aware of this?
My grandma showed me how to use a pendulum when I was about 4 years old.
Oh my goodness. So you really come from that kind of a family then?
Yeah, she was just giving me the pendulum and say, okay, go search for your lost Lego pieces. Ask a question, yes or no.
And did you find the lost Lego pieces?
I can't remember. I just know when I was 4 or 5 years old, she told me how to hold it and how to ask yes and no questions. And she always had those crystals. So when I was sick, when I was a child, she gave me crystals and said, okay, just take this crystal and you will feel better. And stuff like that. My grandma is not, she is doing a lot, but she's doing it secretly. So she's cooking a lot of sarbe, you know what I mean? Oh my gosh, I don't know the English word. Cream, yeah, to put on your body. She's cooking that.
Oh, right, yeah, like not potions, ointments.
Yeah. She's cooking that stuff, and this will heal a lot of things. And nobody ever is allowed to watch her cook this stuff. Nobody ever. And she will wait, she will wait until everybody left the house, and then she will start. And when you come home, oh, everything's done. And I always thought how she's doing. Worst thing that ever happened was we had a dog, and this dog had cancer, and my grandma made a potion for him. And the vet said he had just to this dog will pass away. He will just die on this cancer. Yeah. And my grandma put this potion on the dog, and the dog was healthy again. He cured a dog from cancer. And I always thought, okay, if you really believe in it, it's like a placebo. But this doesn't with a dog.
Yeah. In terms of COVID, just as a topic, I watched things like the UK government had a campaign, and they called it Act Like You Have It. And I was just appalled because for me, acting like you have COVID is a magical way of ensuring you get COVID. It's like acting, it's like a magical ritual. It's almost as if they want people to get it. Sometimes I see them using black magic or dark magical techniques on people. It was no surprise to find out that they have a psyops unit of psychologists that they use to advise them on how to make people do what they want them to do. And that kind of thing is pretty close to magic anyway. But I do see some dark magic at play in governments around the world at the moment that disturbs me quite a lot. So to some extent, that forces me to try to be a bit more disciplined about my practices as well, because I need to make sure I'm defending myself against those negative energies and working with positive energies and all that kind of stuff. What about Vienna? You're living in the Vienna region, I assume.
Yes.
I moved to Brno from Houston, Texas, about 14 years ago, and the one thing that maybe it's a language problem because I don't really speak Czech that well, but I never found the Czech magical community. I'm a solo practitioner. I built a website myself, and I'm trying to get people interested in what I'm doing, but it's in English, I guess, so it doesn't really attract anybody. I just wondered, is Vienna the sort of place where there are a lot of people practicing magic that you can engage with and work with?
As much as I know, here are a lot of people that belong to the IoT, but I do not have connections to the IoT. My ex-boyfriend was there, and
Uh-huh.
I just keep myself out of this. But besides that, I do have friends that I did not get to know them because that we are doing magic, but I just met them on accident, and then we found out that we both are doing magic. And
Right.
this is how it happened. So one of my best friends is got a pact with Freya. This is why I do know the North pagan
Yeah, yeah,
gods.
absolutely. Very closely related to the Slavic ones, I think. If
I
you look
don't
at,
think that them are related, but I think they deeply respect each other, but them are separated.
well, but if you look at something like Perun, the god of thunder, god of lightning, and then you look at the Nordic gods, you find the parallel god who's in essence the same characteristics. There is some crossover there. They seem to, and that's also very interesting because it tells you something about the development of culture and archetypes, I think.
Yeah, but if you summon like Thor, he's totally different. Thor is the god of thunder, and he's totally different from a personality. Same thing, we've got several weather gods in African spirituality. We've got the Orisha Shango and his wife
Yeah,
Oya.
it's because the Thor is the cultural interpretation of that particular archetype for the Nordic people, whereas Perun, which would be his equivalent in the Slavic hierarchy, has more of a Slavic feel and comes from that culture because there's a cultural aspect. There's a two-way flow process here. The gods rely on the people to create them and sustain them with energy and vice versa. So they take on the character. I think, in the sense of creating your own reality, you also create your own gods, actually. That's my view anyway.
I summon the gods and I talk to them. I can hear them. I talk to them, and I just get that them are totally different. And I experience them as being totally different and having their own characters. And I know a lot of people experience them.
I agree with you. But all I'm saying is that they are culturally oriented too. So there's a symbiotic relationship, and they carry that cultural aspect with them. So yeah, I mean, Perun is definitely a god of thunder, a god of the skies, and he has many similarities with Thor. But I'm sure that if I were to invoke Thor, I would get a different sense because that's a god of the Nordic people, and the Nordic people had a different culture and a different outlook than the Slavs. But there was some overlap and there was some contact between the two groups of peoples. Of course, nobody really knows where the Slavs came from anyway, so who knows? My favorite Slavic god is Perun, and I occasionally feel he plays some tricks as well because there was one day I was out dowsing some energy lines on an archaeological site on the Slovak border, and it was a beautiful sunny day like it was today. I did a little invocation to Perun, and I was meditating, so I had my eyes closed. And when I opened my eyes, there was a single cloud, and it'd come from nowhere, and it rained, and there was a little. It's just like rained momentarily, and I'm thinking, okay, well, thank you very much. That's a good sign. Just came from nowhere and rained, but just a couple of drops, nothing special. But it was enough for me to think, wow, I did in fact commune with this god, and that was the proof in the pudding, the little bit of rain and the one single cloud.
It is so great with those weather gods. You can summon the rain. You can just ask them to make a
Yeah,
thunderstorm. And if they like you, they just will do you the favor.
yeah. And then Veles, the trickster. and god of the underworld. Interesting characteristics as well. Right, so if people want to visit your website, visit with you, how do they do that?
I do have Discord, I have Snapchat, I have WhatsApp, and I just offer them a video chat because everything is complicated right now with the COVID thing. And I just thought I can as well do it via the internet. I just have to connect to the people energetically, and I need a link so I can find them. So I somehow have to have a feeling of them, but I will just naturally find them no matter where they are. They can be on the other side of the world. I can still connect to them energetically.
But what about your website? How do they find your actual website, the one I've been looking at?
Oh, the name of the website, Vienna. I just didn't get what you mean. Vienna-voodooqueen.com.
Okay, I'll put it in the notes below the podcast as well, so people can find it. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of The Magical World of G. Michael Vasey. I was talking with Timna, and my thanks to her for joining me at relatively short notice. You can find out more about her at Vienna-voodooqueen.com, where you will find her contact details and the services that she offers, which includes tarot card reading and some other services as well. Please do go visit her website, and please do let her know that you listened to this podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please do share, like. In the meantime, this is G. Michael Vasey saying thank you, goodbye.